The purpose of this session is, it will be maybe half an hour or so, to get your ideas about this workshop. And we would like to have your opinions on the different values, not necessarily your own, but I think the general opinions. And later we are going to make a report of this workshop. So, and I think that Professor Kazım will operate this one and ask questions, and we will try to answer. Okay, go ahead.
Thank you. Okay. I will summarize what we did in this workshop. As a result, there were an interesting presentation. For example, we discussed food situation in Korea, and our speaker told us obesity is increasing, and also he presented about change of food energy supply and nutritional status. For example, I told obesity and fat intake, with other weight getting fat, and food policy projects such as storage, implementation of rice coupon system to increase rice production, increase soybean production, improve animal feeds. He suggested this project. And also food security and the capacity of food production in Iran we discussed, and food security and the self-dependency of crop production, status of food security, imported nutritional energy by 40%, and several plans, development plans in Iran, present water use for feed, status water consumption in Iran, and he suggested several solutions, such as getting more benefit from farm is different climates, reducing carbohydrate energy consumption. And also other speakers talked on the sustainable freshwater aquaculture for food security in Asia, and other speakers talked on changing content and bioavailability of antioxidants with food processing, and dietary antioxidants and their benefit effects of for human health, oxidative stress, antioxidants, carotenoids, vitamins, and change in antioxidant profile during food processing. And she mentioned about lycopene, how it changed during processing. For example, lycopene increase, several other antioxidants. And the other speakers from China talked on building up strength on bio-based manufacturing towards sustainable bioeconomy, biomass, biodegradable of bio-based chemicals, microbial production of ginsenosinoids, and production of starch from cellulose. And from Nepal, Professor Kanti talked on impact of climate change and biodiversity, effects of climate change, how climate change will affect the biodiversity. And Dr. Çınar talked on impact of livestock genomics on food security and sustainability, why diversity is important, management of livestock diversity. And the other colleague from Pakistan, speaker from Pakistan, talk on changing climate condition, causes of distribution of in food supply chain change, such as population growth, political reason, and agriculture sector in Pakistan, climate change impacts. And also other speakers talk on approach for ensuring the food security in the era of climate change. And Professor Apak talked on the food antioxidants, their importance and determination, and what is antioxidants, and mechanism of antioxidants, and especially determination of antioxidants. And Professor Faruk Bozoğlu talked on in the impact of climate change on food safety, ecosystem, climate change, human health, the interaction between climate change and human health, risks and impacts of global warming, and food security. And the other speakers talked on importance of the biofilms on food safety and sustainability. And we have also other speakers, and they talk, for example, one of them talked on the water management and enhancing food security in the climate vulnerable regions of Bangladesh. That is okay. Now we will all their ideas, and if you have any suggestion, you can or comments, we can take them and report them. Now I'm opening this closing for you. Yeah.
I will ask the first question. I would like to ask first question. I noticed that climate change was one of the main ideas that most of the friends talked about. And if that is the case, that I would like to ask one question. Maybe we may have some answer to that question. How can we really decrease the effect of climate effect on food security, for instance? Doctors. Microphone, please, yes.
I'd like to be, again, very grateful for the organizers, so I have to really speak up. I'd like to recommend to the chairman and the participants, I think, a general conclusion from my point of view. And I tried to put together all the other papers because it's all diversified, right? But I think we can bring it together into two main things, no? Water, food safety, and food safety. You cannot grow anything without water. And that's a problem that we're going to have the next 50 years when our population increases. So I'd like to propose this. It may be biased. Again, my general conclusion is water resources management and food quality / safety. It includes antioxidants, safe milk, are major issues and concerns for the sustainable management of food security in the region. It is recommended, from my point of view, that appropriate strategies / adaptive measures that are science-based. I think as an academy, we should always use science as our tool for research. And policy actions, Science without policy, we cannot move on. If the decision makers do not believe us, we cannot sell our science to them, we're useless. Okay? Be implemented to address such issues for sustainable food security in the region in the light of increasing populations and impacts of climate change. I'm submitting this as a possible. Yeah. It's written. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Kaldir. Yes, yes.
That is great.
Yes, yes, yes. Yes, there is, yes, yes, please. Go ahead. Yeah.
Thank you for these two inspiring questions. For the first question, and basically from the Chinese perspective view, we all understand that climate has a great impact on agriculture. But Chinese researchers are studying how to increase the resistance, stress resistance of major crops. Therefore, they can be more resistant to the climate change and or other, for instance, pest effects. So this is something we are doing, and some resistant crops has been put into practice, put into plantation. So this is from one aspect, try to reduce the effect of the climate change on the agricultural yields. For your second question, how to reduce the climate change, this is what exactly I presented. The Chinese government recognized the importance of the global warming, and this is majorly caused by the rapid development of industry, and because the rapid consumption of the petrol resulting in a significant increase of the carbon dioxide emission and also the other greenhouse gas emissions. Therefore, one measure to affect the climate change is try to reduce the usage of the fossil fuels. Therefore, for instance, utilizing the renewable energy and the renewable biomass is one important measure to reduce the consumption of the fossil fuels. Therefore, to build up a society on the renewable raw materials, therefore can reduce the climate change, hopefully. So these are our thoughts.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, any other comment? Yes.
The famous Indian economist Amartya Sen has evaluated the Bengal's famine years ago and had resulted that famines are not result of too little food. They are the result of economic policies that are driven by different forces. So I think now we have 1.2 billion hungry people on Earth, and it seems that the climate change is going to drive these billions to much more numbers. So the problem of equal distribution of the resources, not the resources, the food, is a major issue, I think, regarding food security. Of course, countries have to have local solutions which are very well discussed in this workshop. These are also very important, the local solutions. But the equal distribution of food on Earth is a major issue for now and for the following years.
Yes.
I think we should put this as an important fact.
Yeah. So, Mr. Jacobs? Yes, please. Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just want to propose some points. We have presented here some slides. We have submitted the extra, you have printed it out, but each paper must have some elaborate reports. I suggest that you put them together, compile it as proceedings. On the top of that, make a summary recommendation based on all this. Say, if you make few chapters, say for example, what to do to address climate change impacts. One type of thing, activity put together. That will take some time. When you shall find out some mechanism to handle this hazards, environmental hazards, it will take time. Should we wait till that result comes? Meanwhile, let there be some suggestion, whatever technology, varieties, or ideas are available, put them into practice for increasing productivity. Let it go, and let us also wait for new things to come to address this climate change sort of issues. If you simply wait for climate change issues and then do nothing with the available technology, then you shall be lagging behind. So we should go simultaneously, go ahead with whatever we have. Next, think for the future to address the climate change issues. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, I'd like to suggest my opinion. I learned many things yesterday and today about food security. Many countries faced food security problem. Okay? Therefore, we need to find out how we can get over the food security in many countries. I'm thinking one way is we have to think about post-harvest loss. Okay? For example, developed countries, post-harvest loss is about 20%. However, developing countries, post-harvest loss is about more than 50%. Therefore, there are many ways to get over this food security. One way is increase the production quality and quantity. However, we have to think about post-harvest control to save our food. That is my one point from this discussion.
Very good. Did you write it down there? No.
Okay, I will.
Yes, any other question? Yes, Mahmoud? Yeah. Right there. Mikrofon şurada, burada. Şurada, en önde. Burada, orada diye bak orada.
Yeah, thank you very much. Half of my point has been explained by Professor. In my slides, I showed that there are two things needed for food security. One is the losses, which are the post-harvest losses in the developing countries, which is very, very high rate. We should try to control that. Secondly, the wastage of food in the developed countries. That's also very high rate of wastage. As I have told that FAO has a report that 1/3 of the food produced is lost,
Yes.
either in the form of post-harvest losses or after buying from the market. So if we can control that, and the figure by the FAO is that it can feed 2 billion people. So the population growth, when we say the population is growing in the next up to 2050, the population growth will be from 7 to 9.1. So if we can only control the losses, 2 billion people can be fed, and that is food security up to 2050. So we must concentrate on the food losses, and in both cases, that is the wastage and the post-harvest losses.
The question is, how can we do? Do you have any answer to that?
Yes. In the post-harvest losses can be easily controlled in the developing countries, just by educating the farmers on that sense that after the harvesting the crops, mainly the wheat, what losses are being done, being careless and not having the new technologies, not having the storage capacity, and pesticide problem after the harvest is made. So all this problem can be solved by just educating the farmers.
Yes. Okay, thank you. Yes.
Thank you, the chair. First, I want to comment on the management of this workshop. I think the TÜBA has done a very good job, especially for all of us coming from overseas. Very quick response, very prompt, and we must thank the Secretariat and the TÜBA executives. The second thing which we like to say, that AASSA has organized this workshop, and it was scheduled much earlier, and has a wide participation from different countries of the world. The purpose of this is to share the experiences and learning the opportunities to cultivate in their own country for managing the problems that countries are facing. For that, I would humbly request the President of AASSA should take lessons from each of the presentation and make this distributed, which country could share what. Because there are many successful examples. So AASSA can host or can make such a presentation. My last comment, that the program you organized very nicely. Our stay was very pleasant, and I must express gratitude to you all, the AASSA and the TÜBA, on behalf of all participants here. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you. Yes, from Pakistan.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. See, I looked at everything from overall perspective. Hello. You see, there are different aspects and responsibilities of different groups of the communities. Farmers are there. The scientists, they have the responsibility. And the political leaders in the world, they have their responsibilities. You see, if you look in the overall perspective, it's very clear that it is the rich nations who have disturbed the carbon budgets of the world, and that is affecting the climate. But they are not ready to pay anything to the developing nations who are contributing very little to the GHGs, and really they are suffering at the hands of those countries who have been responsible for change in temperature and all this disturbance. This was the remark just I wanted to make. But at the same time, as I had pointed out, that scientists can do two things. One is they can find ways to reduce carbon dioxide emissions, as was discussed by Professor Lee, and also work for having climate-smart plants who can tolerate stresses of temperature, high temperature. There has been work going on for a long, long time in different parts of the world on heat proteins and so on, and also on drought tolerance. We can select the varieties of crops and also domesticate the naturally growing species of plants which are edible and can add to the food for our agriculture. So the impact in the short term, at least, can be handled by having this climate smart agriculture, which is crop varieties and animal breeds, and coupled with the management practices. We can have the scientists have the researchers, they have the responsibility to do that. So we have to focus on increasing the yields per unit area, per unit water, and per head animal. That has to be the focus of our research in the future. I think if we can make some recommendations and really bring together the scientists from different countries working on stress tolerance of plants, that can be a very useful sort of exercise. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you. Yes. Yeah.
Thank you, sir. The first question is,
Please.
or all from the natural resources that will minimize the production of carbon dioxide and so on, GSG. So next thing is for the plants to survive, the local varieties should be planted in that area. In our country also nowadays problem is hybrid plants are coming up, and the farmers, they will plant those varieties. So there is a decline, because they cannot survive in that temperature or climate. So nowadays the farmers, they prefer the local varieties because they can survive in that area, and it can survive in the increased temperature as well. And next thing is the traditional knowledge. We have to focus on traditional knowledge also, because in our country the farmers earlier, they saved the seeds properly, but now we have to buy everything, the hybrid varieties. So we have to focus on traditional knowledge also. R&D should be focused on the traditional knowledge and the local varieties. That will, I think, minimize some climate change activities on the food security. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Yes, please. Yeah. No.
As it turned out that the climate change is a burning issue. Most of the papers which were presented at the workshop, they are related to climate change. So I think our recommendations should contain something about climate change. Climate change is affecting agriculture directly as well as indirectly. Directly by reducing yield of crops, by affecting crop at different growth stages, by increasing crop water requirements, and indirectly by disrupting the communication mechanism through which food is transported to different parts of a country. It has turned out that even if sufficient food stocks are available, but due to natural disasters, the communication links, roads, railway network, they are broken, the food insecurity will arise. So I think we should not take climate change lightly, we should take it in toto. We should recommend all of its components. For example, utilization, access, and availability. And it has also been estimated that even if, the climate change is due to greenhouse gas emissions, they warm the climate, the incoming radiation which is reflected back, that is held up by greenhouse gases, and it warms up the atmosphere. So it has been estimated that even if the greenhouse gas emissions are stopped altogether today, even then the effect of climate change will continue for at least 30, 40 years. So it means we must live with climate change. We must adapt to climate change. And the best method to adapt to climate change or to make friends with climate change is to have germplasm or varieties which are resistant or tolerable to climate harshes. And then
Sesini biraz daha yükseltebiliyor muyuz acaba ya? Duymuyoruz biz ya.
yeah. And we should also take other precautionary steps. For example, alternate food sources. In case of emergency or if something happens, we must have some alternate sources of food, and which should provide alternate source of livelihood also to farmers, because if natural disaster or climate change disasters occur frequently, the life of farmers becomes miserable. So we should see the whole picture in a holistic manner. By developing new crop varieties which are resistant to climate change stresses, by providing alternate means of livelihood, alternate means of food, and alternate, cropping patterns, which we cannot, force new cropping patterns. They evolve slowly. So I think if we take into account these steps, the effect or bad impacts of climate change can be tamed to a certain extent. So that's what I have to say.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
One more person.
Any other comment?
Lady.
Oh yeah. Okay.
Thank you. I think for food safety sustainability, there is a one micro and one macro and one micro problem. Climate change and the increases of the hunger people are very important, and so it is a macro problem for the world. However, when we give give food to people, it should be at good quality and safe. Also, must be nutritive. If it is not, people can die also because of the cancer diseases, foodborne outbreaks, and this one is the micro problem of the food safety sustainability. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Very good. Any other comment? Yes. Dr. Ken, yes.
Yeah, thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. I think all the issues you have identified, whether climate changes or water resource management or reduction of post-harvest food losses, are of very high importance to us. Now, I think it's also good to see how our academies can, sensitize or influence decision makers, whether at the political level or our business people, to embark on real policy or strategy for these elements. We can, of course, I know that under the IAP, there are already some programs going on with NASIC, with NASAC, with AASSA, but we need maybe to see also on the bilateral, because we are not in the same level. Our academies in our countries are not in the same level. Some are already very, embarking very relevant programs. Others are not even aware. To see how concretely we can, either on a bilateral basis or on a regional basis, how to undertake some activities, whether at training or kind of conference like this, or some documents, to address specifically, policymakers or people in the private sector. I think this might be of interest to us. Okay, we are ready to, if there is a need for a meeting like this in Africa, I think Senegal is ready to host whatever you will decide. Thank you.
Thank you. Well, it seems to me that we are through with the audience. Now, I would like to call last two speakers. Unfortunately, our TÜBA president is not here, but I would like to ask Vice President of TÜBA, Professor Yurdasev, to make a little short. After that, after you. Son.
Thank you, Professor Aras. Let me thank you as well, all presenters and participants. We are very happy as Turkish Academy of Sciences to organize this event together with AASSA. And for 2 days, we've been discussing various issues regarding food safety and its sustainable management. When I evaluate a workshop or a conference, an academic activity, at the end of it, I always ask myself what I learned out of it. If I learned something, then it fulfilled its purpose. As a social scientist and studying international politics, out of this workshop presentations, I learned that the provision of food, its safety and security, and also its sustainability are interdependent processes. In political science, we have various categorical divisions. And regarding world politics, one of the prevalent divisions is the North-South division, the global North, the global South. And for the global South, food safety sometimes said to be not an issue. The real issue for the South is the provision of the food. But I learned out of this workshop that for both the North and South, provision, safety, and sustainability, it should be coordinated and they are interdependent processes. And I would like to also express my wish that I join Professor Aras that presenters finalize their papers and submit final written drafts so that together with AASSA, we publish them. In Turkish, we have a saying, what's spoken could be forgotten and thus it disappears. What's written is there and thus it remains forever. So I think we need written papers. Finally, I know that some of you are leaving tonight. But for those of you staying over weekend, I got good news for you. A beautiful Istanbul weather is waiting for you. So enjoy the rest of your stay. And I wish you all safe journey back home. Thank you.
Thank you. And last, I would like to invite AASSA President Krishnan Lal. We would like to find out his last comments about this workshop. Come on in, please. Böyle sırası böyle olması lazım.
So, friends, we have come to the final stage of this very wonderful workshop, and you have covered in these 2 days so many topics, very diverse issues, diverse problems, diverse solutions, ranging not only the usual food in terms of cereals, the climatic conditions in different parts, also availability of water and its various uses, milk, and scientifically very good presentation on antioxidants and what professionally goes on there. It's a very, very diverse range, and it is, to me, somewhat frightening also. But what I also noticed, some very experienced people from agriculture science participated, gave their point of view. So one thing which would be really useful would be if we really bring out a document which can explicitly mention the various agricultural practices we have, keeping in view the geographical condition, climatic condition, variations, because we had from Himalayan region going down to coastal region, all kinds of things. If we can somehow bring out what are the main practices in agriculture and how one can go forward in the context of the changes in climate, both in terms of temperature, both in terms of frequency of rains, droughts, and all these conditions, this would be very valuable. In principle, we are at the threshold of a document which would become a reference work. So it can be in two parts. You can have a proceeding based on whatever presentations, what you have, and we can also seek volunteers which should bring out a document which will be loved by all academies which are member of our AASSA network. So attempt should be whatever the academies, we should remind ourselves that finally we are a collection of national science academies of very talented people. If you look at Asia, if you look at our academies, the range of academies, there is very top-class talent available. So if we produce a document, it should have highest possible standard. It should have the possibility of being treated as a reference for times to come. So this will be my appeal, my suggestion, and as president, it is my duty to drive you also a little bit. So my humble suggestion would be that we work hard. We bring out the very essence of the fundamental issues and possible solutions, challenges, and how these have to be met. This is an important area, and we are well equipped to produce something which everybody will refer to, not merely the academic issues, also policymakers. If they have to find something reference, here should be a document which every government or decision makers or planners may look forward to. Because as I have been mentioning, today one of the challenge before IAP in terms of a partnership is that we should be ready to provide advice at the highest level, but at the same time we must have material. We only don't talk. We love to talk, but we only don't talk. We must have material, evidence-based. This one or two comments I would make general about the workshop. It was, as all of you would agree, it was organized in a very cordial manner. Atmosphere was superb. We had wonderful interaction with each other. Also, we had great spirit. When it is wonderfully outside, we are deliberating here. When it was raining, we were out in the sea. But that is the part of the game. That is how climate is also affecting us. But the ambience and the cordiality between people has been a great experience, and we will like to strengthen it. So for this, I particularly thank the personal involvement of our good friend, President Ahmed Kuwar Akar of TÜBA, Sir Nouri, Sir Namik Aras, and all other colleagues who have done this. I can say my AASSA colleagues. I will also say about Begum Sargin, who was organizing, running around, and my friends here. I can't name all of you, but you have done a superb job, and my heartfelt thanks to all of you, and wish you all the best. Thank you very much.
That I would like to make just a short talk. We are really very happy to have about 15 foreign friends from about 13 countries. This is wonderful, really. I think the purpose of this workshop is not just to learn science or ideas, but to get together, to find people. That is wonderful. First of all, I would like to thank again two persons. One is this young lady, Begum Hanım, and also Kazım. They really organized this workshop. Last many months they are working. And we thank you again. Let us applaud for everything now.